Alright, I think this is, I believe, like part 9 or something. So, we last left off talking about like these Danaan colonies going to Greece, which is basically like another group that had left um, Israel, or, well, not Israel, Egypt, who were said to be like some sort of like Israelites, but I think that might be the case, but it could be like Israelites and non Israelites in the Arab lands and stuff like that, Middle East. Um, I think that might be something that they could be portraying, so to speak. Maybe just have enough information yet. And, I don't know. I don't see it like all the colonies of Greece like were from like the Israelites and like those people. I don't know. It's kind of hard to put that together and see that. Maybe I need more evidence of that. But I know Blavatsky talks about some stuff like that, but not really too. I gotta look into more of that. More of this like claim of the colonies that went to Greece, because it doesn't say where they came from, but it says like those are like the first clans, I think. Um, I don't really know, but in any case, I think we left off on this sentence. So Tacitus has also noticed the Exodus, but in terms evidently copied from some of those which I have given. Okay, so we have but few and scanty notices of the kings of Egypt, even in Diodorus and Herodotus. Its conquest by Nebuchadnezzar is related by Berosus, or Berosus, whatever you want to call him. Okay, so it looks okay. So the Neo-Babylonians, they got into Egypt, and after 2 or 3 temporary gleams of independence, it sunk at length into a province of the Persian Empire. Okay, and from that day to the present. So it says that Nebuchadnezzar, did he really like control Egypt? I didn't really know that. I didn't really know how far his empire expanded, but dang, there's so much occupation over these lands over such a long period of time. There's so many groups coming and going. So yeah, basically, yeah, that makes sense. Persia then, conquered the Neo-Babylonians and then eventually went into Egypt. And from that day to the present, according to the denunciation of the prophet, Egypt has been the basis of kingdoms and under the yoke of strangers. The Tyrian annals are fragments which were quoted by Josephus from the lost histories of Dias and Menander. They agree perfectly with the scriptural accounts and furnish some particulars in addition. The correspondence of Solomon and Hiram, which is the king of Tyre, Hiram is, and then Solomon. The foundation of Carthage and the invasion, conquest, and repulse of Salmanazar. The siege of Tyre by Nebuchadnezzar and its subsequent government under judges are historical editions of great interest and importance. Did Nebuchadnezzar actually control Tyre? I don't know if he actually did. I guess so. I could look that up right now, but I'll have to look it up later. So, the Periplus of Hanno is an account of the earliest voyage of discovery extent. Really? It was taken from an original and apparently official document which was suspended in the Temple of Saturn at Carthage. Huh. Let me look up the Temple of Saturn. Where's this located? I know where Carthage is. Let me see. Okay, Carthage. That's West Africa, right? Where was it at? I honestly forget where it's at. I thought it was in West Africa. Yeah, right? Ancient Carthage? Yeah, see, it's like West Africa, kind of. Okay. Alright. Destroyed by the Romans. They salted that area. I don't know the extent to which that's been told. Okay, so Temple of Saturn in Carthage looks like one of these like Greek temples. Possibly You know, when I look at some of these temples and stuff like that, and then I look at Petra, and I ask myself which one would have came first. And honestly, I feel like these are like... See, they call it Roman, and then they don't say that there's also like been it like this. There's like parts of the temple that's been there for much longer. But it's like, oh yeah, the Romans put a couple blocks here. So like Baalbek, for instance, like they say, oh yeah, it's a temple of Jupiter for the Romans because the Romans built there, and it's like, yeah, the Romans built there, but they didn't build the megalithic structures and the vast like site itself. They only did like this small like reparations and kind of like extra fortifications and stuff like that, which are like it was basically only at the front of the tours. Like the back of the tours, like these grand freaking megalithic, like it's just insane work. And you know, looking at like the Temple of Saturn, I don't know, this just tells me something's like connected with like, you know, either Petra, the Middle East, or something like that, with these temples and stuff like that. Because I mean, this is in West Africa, and like I said, I'm looking at this account right now. Let me take a look at the website for what I was looking at. Let's see, Temple of Saturn. What did I click on? I clicked on something. Architecture, partially. So I'd have to do more research on this because I haven't really looked into it. But basically, like, most of the structure has probably been built long before the Romans, dude. It's just like... The Temple of Saturn is the oldest sacred place in Rome after the temples of Vesta and Jupiter. The present ruins represent the third phase of the Temple of Saturn, which was built in 3060s. It's like, what about the first editions? An altar of Saturn, which is stood somewhere in the area in front of the temple, is thought to have been much older and was associated with the myth of Saturn's founding of the city in Capitoline Hill. The first, simpler Temple of Saturn is thought to have been first installed in the site during the early period of the Roman kingdom. Macrobius, writing in circa 400 CC, relates that another tradition that Tullius Hostilius, the second king of Rome, built a phantom shrine. But this is in West Africa. Like, they didn't have control of this area, did they? What are they talking about? Oh, this is a different... This isn't the Temple of Saturn in Carthage. See, like that, dude, like, I just clicked on a website trying to get the... this is the type of thing where they just try to, like, cover up history and they won't say, like, the stuff that's really true about it. It's so bizarre to me, to be honest. It's like they're trying to hide this information deliberately, which is just really interesting, because, I don't know, now looking at this, like, the Roman Empire, they why are they building these megalithic structures? They're building these grand structures outside the empire, and you can argue like, oh yeah, well, it's just like they wanted complete control of these lands, so this is what they did. They built stone monuments, and like the Roman forts and stuff like that, they could very well much exist, but I don't know, something's like not being told, where like, you know, Baalbek is really one of them that I like to point out specifically, because like they say that that's a Roman site, but there's older like Phoenicians, and then before that, like, I don't know, people of Ad, or honestly, like, I think it goes back to a very ancient old time, and there's no way to track that because it's stone and you can't carve and date it. So, but I personally think that it's just like, this is some sort of like thing that's not being said for whatever reason. So, I mean, this is really interesting though, that there was an official document in the Temple of Saturn in Carthage. Falconer has edited it as a separate work and gives 2 dissertation on it. The first, explanatory of its contents, and the second, a refutation of Dodwell's reflections on its authenticity. I have followed Falconer both in his text and translation with respect to its age. Falconer agrees with Bougainville, and referring it to the 6th century before the Christian era. Okay. So, there's a document at the Temple of Saturn that's see, we just read right now that like this is a Roman Empire fortification, right? The Roman Empire wasn't an empire basically until like starting at the turn of the freaking millennium, which is like 0 AD or whatever. That was when the Roman Empire formed, and they started like expanding like hugely. 400 BCE, I don't even think like the Roman Empire even existed then. Like, if this document, if he's saying that this is like in 600 BC, like that's way before the Roman Empire. So, what is this even saying? What the hell? Why? That's really interesting. That Periplus is prefaced by a few lines reciting a decree of the Carthaginians relative to the voyage and its objects. Okay, so, I mean, Carthaginian history, I mean, they're a Phoenician group, so they would have settled out there, and they became highly successful in those lands. And they got stamped over by a particular group. Relative to the voyage and its objects, and is then continued by the commander or one of his companions as a narrative which commences from the time that fleet had cleared the Straits of Gibraltar. Bougainville has given a chart of the voyage which may be found together with the corresponding maps of Ptolemaeus d'Anville in Falconer's treatise. I don't know if I pronounce that word. It may be sufficient, however, to mark that Tymyatarium, the first of the colonies planted by Hanno, occupies a position very nearly, perhaps precisely, the same with that of the present commercial city of Mogador. Okay, I don't know what that says, so let's look at Mogador. And it says it's in Ohio. Ancient city. What was called ancient city? Mogador may refer to the city of Essaouira, Morocco. Morocco is definitely West African. So, yeah, Morocco. We'll just call that Morocco. So what is this? Okay, so the first of the colonies planted by Hanno, and Hanno is... Tymyatarium. Okay, so Tymyatarium is supposed to be in Morocco. So this is Mogador, I think, is supposed to be Morocco, but it was probably... It's probably referring to Morocco. Yeah, it says here it's an Arabic word meaning beautiful and the name of a town in Morocco. So yeah, it is basically Morocco. So Tymyatarium is the first city of the Carthaginians, right? Really? That's really interesting. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's some historical context like regarding that. That's really interesting, honestly. The promontory of Soloasis corresponds with Cape Bojador, nearly opposite to the Canaries. Caricontichos, Gite, Acra, Melita, and Ambros are placed between Cape Bojador and the Rio do Oro, which is supposed to be the Licious. I'm assuming this is all either like I'm a Mike Tyson, West African, or I guess like southern Spain. I'm assuming because like that's all like in the relative area that it's talking about. So I don't really want to look all these areas up. Pretty sure. The river Kretz perhaps is the St. John. Yes, I think this is like all in Spain and stuff. And the next large river mentioned is the Sagna. The Cape Three Points are supposed to correspond respectively with the western and southern horns and some island in the Bight of Beni with that of Cory. Volsius, however, supposes the western horn to be Cape Verde and the southern Cape Palmas, in which case the Sierra Leone will answer to the O Commentating, the chariots of the gods. Should I look this up? I mean, we know that I think, what is it, Chariots of the Gods is like that Eric von Daniken book. Let me, who is Okema Deon? Oh, well. Okay, well, Okema Deon can be translated as vehicle of the god. Okay, well, so, but what is this saying? We'll answer to the. I don't really know what this is saying at all, honestly. If anybody can, like, kind of read what this is saying right here, I have no idea. Supposes that the western horn to be Cape Verde, the southern Cape Palmas, in which case the Sierra Leone will answer to the chariots of the chariot of the gods. Like, it's just a weird sentence. Like, I don't know if Commentating is like a city, like, but why is that called? I don't know. So weird. The description of a troglodyte as men of a different form or appearance may imply a change from the Moresco to the Negro race. Some passages quoted by Falconer from Bruce's travels explain the extraordinary fires and nightly merriment which alarmed the voyagers, as customs among many of the Negro tribes, and which have repeatedly fallen within the scope of his own observations. The Guerrier are supposed to be large monkeys or wild men, as the name in ancient Greek may in fact import. Well, but see, like, I don't know what this is saying, honestly. It's just, I mean, if they're saying, like, what I'm thinking they're saying, then, I mean, it's just, like, typical, like, 1800s racism, which, but I don't know, like, the guerrilla, like, is he saying that the guerrilla are supposed to be, like, these, like, black folks that are, like, over there? And then, like, let me see. Like, there's like basically saying like there's Israelite groups or like the Phoenician groups and these other tribes that came in and kind of like blended with them. The Periplus is followed by a strange account of the African settlements from the books of Hempsiel, king of Numidia, preserved by Sallust, of the Indian fragments of Megasthenes, The most remarkable has already been referred to, in two great divisions of the philosophical sects, into the Brahmins and the Hermanes. We may doubtless recognize the predecessors of the present Brahmins and Buddhists of Hindustan. They are likewise mentioned by Clitarchus as the Brahmanes and the Pramne. The castes of India are also described at length, and have continued with some variations to the present day. Okay, well, I mean, yeah, it's like Vedic chronicle. I think they're talking about the Vedic texts. Who are the Hermanes from the Fragments of Megasthenes? Let's see what this says. A Greek historian and ambassador to the Mauryan court in India. Oh, what the hell? What the hell? Are believed to refer to a group of Indian philosophers. Wait, okay, well, are a group mentioned in the Fragments of Okay, so the Germans are the Hermanes are believed to refer to a group of Indian philosophers or sages, likely related to the Shrammanas. Megasthenes' descriptions of Indian society, fascinating accounts of various philosophical sects, including the groups he referred to as Brahmanes, which are the Brahmins and the Hermanes. So who were the Hermanes? And so he's saying that the early followers of Sarta Gautama, which is like Buddha, embraced their renunciate life of meditation and ethical conduct. Okay, so this is basically explaining like Buddhism and Jainism and like how it started before it was like probably like called like what we know today. Megasthenes described them as an ascetic devoted to self-discipline, meditation, and the pursuit of wisdom. They are distinct from the Brahmanes, who are associated with Vedic religious tradition. You know, when I look at this sentence, when it says Megasthenes describes them as ascetics devoted to self-discipline, meditation, and the pursuit of wisdom, do you know what starts like conjuring up in my head? Japanese Buddhism. Like, is this like did this spread like, I'm wondering if like, when like, the spreading of, because, all right, so we have Vedic texts talking about like how there's indigenous people in like southern India and like in the mainland of India. It says in the Vedic text that there's a group called the Aryans, which are northwest, which are basically like the people of Iran and so the like. Okay, so these people with like the it's unanimously accepted and agreed that these Aryan tribes would have brought their knowledge of the Mesopotamian lands and all that lore of cuneiform and such into those Indian lands. And so there's this blending of like the natural folklore of whatever the Indians had orally, and then the stuff that got passed down, because it also says that during the Aryan migration period, which was somewhere between like I think 800 and 600 BCE, they say that the written language of like Vedic text, so I think I don't know if it's called Tamil or maybe like Sanskrit. I really don't know too many details on it, because some of these books are just like really old. They don't say specifically what, but then if you try to look up the information today, you have to be skeptical of any like type of like thwarting or like kind of like misinterpretation. But in any case, this seems to be the truth that like it's these and so here's my, I think I'm going to end off on this page. But I think, let me see. Shamana. So these are, so Hamanes is similar to the word Shamana. Oh, this is, okay. So this must have happened after the Shramanas represent the non-Vedic traditions that were instrumental in shaping Indian philosophical, ethical, and spiritual discourse. Huh. So, okay, so I think this type of separation would have happened. Huh. I'm gonna end it on this page here, but just from the sentence alone, I'm trying to like think like, is okay. So this is Buddhism, right? Is this some sort of like further migration period of these Aryan tribes? Because like, you have these people who I assume are like Brahmins and stuff like that, right? So that I'm pretty sure it's like unanimously agreed that these Brahmin groups, like these people in this group, stayed in India and in those lands, and then these Shramana peoples, right? He's basically saying they're like the predecessors to like Buddhism, but they spread out further outside of like Hindustan. So what makes me assume is going on is like these groups, like there was like a migration period out of India that involves like these groups that I guess are Buddhists. I mean, that's to the extent which they migrated is really like uncertain, obviously, but I'm trying to like see what they're trying to say realistically speaking, because it's like there's obviously this division between these two groups, right? So let's see here, like it's like this it's like this like, I wonder how far back he relates this to, because I mean, Megasthenes had existed in BCE, so he was like an ambassador to India, brought the information back. Okay, so before this, let me quickly ask, before I end this video, let me ask ChatGPT one more thing. Okay, so when did this great division occur? This will give me more insight. When did this great division said to have occurred? Yeah, the great division referenced in context of Megasthenes. So this would have happened. Yeah, see, okay, so the Indo-Aryans, right, introduced the Vedic tradition in the Indian subcontinent. That's exactly what I said. The early Vedic religion focused on rituals, sacrifices. Yep, sounds like Mesopotamian old freaking shit. And hymns. Yep. That's you can't see me right now, but that's a thumbs up. Okay. The emergence, okay, so let's see, late Vedic period, this is about 800 BCE. The emergence of philosophical speculation within the Vedic tradition led to the Upanishads, which explored medical physical concepts like Brahman. Okay, so yeah, so this Brahman group, right? That's how they form, is through these Upanishads. So I guess, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. Okay, there we go. Okay. It's 7th to 6th century, so this is about 800 BCE to like 700 BCE, I believe, or maybe 500. I don't really know. Anyways, it's somewhere before Megasthenes got there in the Greek empires. So this is before the Greek empires. This is some sort of like flowing in the Western history. It's like the flowing state between like, I would say like the time like after Moses, and then all these like other this new like whole generation of just like empires developing. So this is like in the midst of all that, and so it's like there's all these I think further migration periods, honestly, because like the history is just kind of like blank. I have to like double check my history, but it's so much you got to keep track of. You know what I mean? Okay, so let me finish up. So the Shramana, which is the Shamanic movement, which is the Buddhism movement, gained prominence as a reaction against the ritualistic dominance of the Vedic tradition, the Aryan tradition from Mesopotamia, It rejected the authority of the Vedas, Brahmin priesthood, sacrificial rituals, emphasizing personal enlightenment. So yeah, this basically sounds like, basically the separation between like the Hindu cultures, or the Vedic cultures and non-Vedics. So this is, that makes not now this kind of like, and this kind of makes sense why there's Buddhism in Japan and like in like other countries. It's like they separated from like the main ritualistic ideas going on that they're the old empires of like Mesopotamian stuff brought to the Indian subcontinent. But it's like, to say that the same bloodline, I think they were, but they're just like kind of like divided from the group. But see, this gives me the assumption that like these migrations, like they didn't, like, here's where I'm going with this, right? So we have like some people saying, like from the 1800s, saying that like the first Semitic peoples, like after the whole like Aryan migration period, you have this a Semitic overlap of like the Sumerian cultures and all those cultures. It gets like pasted over with these Semitic groups and these people that like come in with the language that has like the three root syllable trilateral root words, that whole like Semitic 3-letter root, whatever that thing's called, that is like pasting over the old Sumerian language and like the old like stuff that's like more pictorial, like honestly I would like equate Sumerian because it's more pictorial than Akkadian. I got to do more research onto it, but like I would put that under the same category as like Chinese, like ancient Chinese, and like honestly probably like Egyptian, like the ancient Egyptian, and it's just like got simplified out there because they're just like so far from Mesopotamia and stuff like that. So me personally, I see that occurring when these languages first form and these people have these like traditions that they kept with like cuneiform and stuff like that and papyrus. So so where I'm getting to, right, is these German groups, right? They would be considered not Brahmins, so they're not going to be like that group. So Abraham. So I'm assuming like all these people spread out, I don't know, maybe possibly from India or something like that, after the Aryan migration periods at a later time, and then created all these other like new forms of like religion and stuff like that, and these new frontiers of like what's going on in like ancient society and stuff like that, because like it makes complete sense to me personally. Like, okay, so you have the non-Brahmins going to like Mesopotamia, and this is around the same time, like I don't know, I have to do more research and maybe like kind of like parallel to what's going on in this time period, because like it's possible like these dates on like what ChatGPT is giving me or like what the academics say may not be like correct, and so like you could possibly like parallel it if you kind of like look outside of history, which is what this channel is about. It's kind of like looking at alternative conclusions and stuff like that based on for the most part secondary resources, but I think just because it's just more accessible than the primary resources, you know what I mean? You have to get to like the really, really like detailed stuff, and then just like, I guess trying your best to just like make sense of everything, because just like, things will parallel, but things will like, you'll get this feeling, This is the feeling that I get. It's like these things that they're saying right here with this group could have been the early migrations of like these Semitic tribes, these early like I'd say like Buddhist like Enlightenment thinkers that like that went eastward, and kind of like they kind of like glossed over the tribes out there and stuff like that. But I don't know. I got to do more, obviously there's always more research I gotta do, but in any case, I'm gonna end it here, so I'm gonna leave off on this page, and I'll come back, I'll probably come back to this whole sentence again, or this whole, like, beginning paragraph, and then just continue on to the bottom here, whatnot, because we did get to a little bit over here, but I was so fascinated by this whole statement, just kind of get lost, but we'll continue in the next episode.